Hello, hello, hello. Hi, my name is Audimo Saul. I was up here yesterday. I am majoring in plant science and dual majoring in ecology, evolution, and natural resources. And I am part of the Rutgers Forestry Club, who's here today to help volunteer scanning and whatnot. Today I'll be introducing Walt Warner. He is a consulting arborist and urban forester based in Hawaii and California, very western based, but is willing to work anywhere in America to preserve our urban forests. For over 35 years, he has worked with government agencies, developers, contractors, law firms, insurance agencies, and individual property owners. His education includes agriculture, business, accounting from the University of Hawaii, and landscape architecture from UCLA. He's a certified urban forester, certified arborist, and municipal specialist, pesticide applicator, pest control advisor, qualified tree risk assessor, and a qualified tree risk appraiser. He is a founding member of the Municipal Forestry Institute, where he taught leadership in urban forestry from 2006 to 2021. He is a man with lots of credentials. If you want to know more than what you know right now, you might want to shake his hand and have a nice conversation with him. Today he'll be talking about transitioning from arborist to urban forester. So without further ado, here is Walt Warner.
I want to start out by saying thank you to the New Jersey Shade Tree Federation for the invite to come and talk about transitioning from municipal arborist to urban forester. A little bit about myself. I started my career in 1975 as a landscape contractor in Hawaii. And in 1984, I made a career move to California, where I eventually landed a job as the city forester for Palos Verdes Estates, California. So since then, I've worked for over 25 different municipalities, either as a full-time employee, a contract staff member, or a consultant. I also taught at MFI for many years, where I met urban foresters and municipal arborists from all across the country: Canada, Mexico, Spain, England, Brazil. And the one thing I've learned is that most of these people have done both jobs. They've either been an urban forester or a municipal arborist, or they've done both. So let's get into it. So quick disclaimer, this is not a scientific study. This is based on my years of experience in talking to people and doing both jobs and talking to people that have done both jobs. How many municipal arborists do we have in the room? One? Come on, there's more than one municipal arborist in here. How many, do we have any other certified urban foresters in here? So Paul made the announcement, and I'll talk about it a little bit at the end, but yes, Society of American Foresters is coming out with a new credential, the Certified Urban Forestry Technician. It's going to be available in 2023. How many see themselves as an urban forester? Okay, a couple more people. And how many people think there's a difference between a municipal arborist and an urban forester? Wow, okay, I guess I got my work cut out for me. All right, so at the end of this, I would ask that you decide and you ask yourself if you're a municipal arborist or if you're an urban forester. Okay, so starting out, here we are right in the middle of it. Whether you're an arborist or an urban forester, you're right in the middle of it, okay? And when you look at the myriad of tasks that fall into the categories of urban forestry or municipal arboriculture, we in the profession ourselves sometimes get it confused. And as a professional, if we can't sort it out and if we can't define where we're at, how does that put us with the employers that we work for, or our clients, or our customers? We have all these things that we do, and these are just the big ticket items. So anybody that's been around for a season or two knows that there's a whole list of other items below each one of these items. So this isn't to say who does more, it's more like who does what, okay? The list on the left is more of a operational standpoint, and a lot of those tasks will get filtered up through the hierarchy into upper management. A lot of times it'll be a manager that might not be an urban forestry professional. It might be an urban forester, but it might also be a public works director or a planning director. Depends on what department you're in. So as we go through the talk, we'll talk about some of these areas, and then we'll sort it out at the end. This is the ISA's definition of arboriculture. And I would say that it deals with individual tree care. It's the practice and the study of the care of trees. Pretty straightforward. Now, I know what you all are thinking. There's a lot of words on that slide, okay? But this is a taste of what you get when you research the definition of arboriculture. Everybody has their own take on it. The first one says, that I came to, it says, cultivation for ornamental purposes. And then another one says it's for the production of timber. Is that what arboriculture is about? I don't think so. The third one kind of is pretty concise and does cover what arboriculture is about. The last one is pretty long and it goes over everything. It tries to include everything. One thing that they don't do, and I read all these definitions, none of them connected arboriculture to the environmental benefits of trees. And I think that's what we need to do as professionals, is make sure we bring that message home to our constituents and to our clients. This brings us to the certified arborist. These are the people they are the implementers of the best practices of our profession. They specialize in everything that you see here on the list. They're the front line of proper tree care. They're the ones that are out there telling everybody, this is the way we do it. This is the right way to do things, theoretically. Now, this is the description. I know a lot of words, again, but this is the ISA's description for municipal specialist. Now, again, it deals with individual trees, okay? Municipal arboriculture, for all intents and purposes, is the front line of urban forestry. They are the implementers or the regulators of decisions that are made at a higher level of an agency. Sometimes it'll be, the decision will affect developers, or it'll affect other disciplines, or it'll affect constituents. But they're the ones that are actually going to be doing the tree inventories. They're the ones that decide where they're going to be having an Arbor Day ceremony or who they're going to be having an Arbor Day ceremony with. So they're the implementers of urban forestry, the feet on the ground. In Hawaii, it's feet on the ground. Normally, it's boots on the ground. So these are the domains for the municipal certification test. And like the slide I showed earlier, these domains here also have multiple lists underneath them. It's not just these items here. And I also point out that in larger municipalities, the municipal arborist might not do all of these tasks. They might only be assigned a specific task out of one of these domains, but they still have to have that municipal arborist certification. So when we get to arboricultural practices, the municipal arborist has to know their species. They got to know the different types of inventory, what kind of data to collect, how to conduct an effective inventory, and how to present that information. They focus on industry standards to ensure quality and safety during pruning operations, whether it's their crews, contract crews, or even permitted work. When it comes to means and methods, their objective is to develop an efficient and effective maintenance program. They got to have the pruning specs, the pruning standards, the right tools, the right people, the right equipment. So they're making sure that the program is actually being affected properly. A lot of times the municipal arborist is the go-to between other departments, whether it's sidewalk repairs, tree planting efforts, working with public safety such as fire or police. They're the ones that are actually in the field working with other departments to minimize the impact that they're going to have on a tree, or to minimize the tree's impact on what it is that they're doing. They're the go-between. The municipal arborist conveys the image of the urban forestry program at the street level, if you will. They meet residents and businesses, homeowners on a regular basis, on a one-to-one basis. They're the ones that are explaining why policies are in place, what the policy means, why it's regulated the way it's regulated, why they can't do what they want to do to the tree. They're the ones that's in the field more often than not, And they create or they can transform relationships with the related departments or with the constituents that are impacting the urban forest. So when they're out inspecting sidewalks and doing sidewalk repairs and monitoring root pruning, this is when they have the opportunity to work with the Public Works Department or the sidewalk contractor and teach them, look, it's not that hard, it's not rocket science. This is how we prune roots. You know, you don't want me pouring the sidewalk, right? I don't want you pruning the roots. So that's what the municipal arborist message is. They're acutely aware of what's needed in the way of funding for the urban forestry program. They know where all the shortfalls are, and they take that information and they filter it up through the hierarchy. Again, either it's to the urban forester or it's to their boss or their supervisor. And they provide insight as to what's going on with constituency issues. It might be risk issues, there might be pesticide issues, pest issues. They're the ones that are in the field that are going to take all that information and feed it into upper management. Now, a lot of times the municipal arborist is the go-to person for the public. They regularly take calls, they regularly meet with residents, they hear all the complaints, and they have to balance with what they can do, what they have the funds to do, what they are allowed to do, and what they have the authorization to do. There's a difference. And so sometimes they'll make those decisions on their own. But if it's affecting a larger constituency group, or if it's affecting a business district or something, they might have to take it up to a higher level of the agency, whether it's their boss or the city council or city manager's office. So they get all the complaints, they very rarely get compliments, and they're the ones that are doing the Arbor Day planting and trying to teach residents how to plant trees so the trees will actually thrive. And the public relations also includes other departments. So whether you're working with Public Works or Solid Waste or anybody else, building and safety, all these people in other departments that interact with trees, the municipal arborist is the face of the urban forestry program to kind of get them to buy into what it is that the urban forestry program wants them to do. And a lot of it is changes in their practices. It's like, no, you can't take the backhoe and dig up the sidewalk now. Only take the sidewalk out and we're going to excavate by hand. We're going to use air spades and we're going to use loppers and pruners. That's new to those people, and it's up to the municipal arborists. They become the educator and try to teach these people, this is how we do it. It's a little different than you're used to, and it's not that hard. Here, I'll show you how to do it. Administration is a lot of times it's heavy on personnel management. And a lot of times the arborist is the one that's supervising the crews, putting together the work orders, the work plans, they're taking disciplinary actions, and they have to run a safety program. So they got to have their tailgate safety meetings, they've got to make sure that they're trained in their safety protocols and that they have the right PPE. They manage their equipment, so they know when they need to replace their saws, the ropes, the boots, the trucks, chippers, everything. So they have regular budget line items that they can draw on, and sometimes they have to create or make budget requests for new equipment or new materials. So because they have such a close working relationship with the urban forester or their boss, that's the information that they give to supervision to create the annual budget, whether it's a budget enhancement or to facilitate the ongoing budget. Today, municipalities are becoming more and more cognizant of the risk that trees pose, that their trees pose. And they're requiring their municipal arborists to become track qualified. They either do that or they hire an outside consultant who is track qualified to do the risk assessments for them, and sometimes municipalities will do both. A lot of times I'll get a call and I'll do a risk assessment on a tree, but it's already been done by the city staff and they just want an outside opinion. The municipal arborist is the one that's out in the field monitoring the trees. They know where all the high-risk trees are, what should be removed, what should be replaced, how to phase in the program to where the worst trees get removed first. And so when the trees are actually approved for removal and they go through the process of removing the trees, they're the ones that are going through the removal process, and they're making sure that it gets done right, done safely, and gets replaced with the right tree. The municipal forester is the professional that is responsible to ensure that decisions are implemented at the field level. They show up on the job site, and if it's a development project, they're the ones that are going to make sure that the tree protection zones are set up and they're being monitored and they're being respected. They're the ones that are also going to have to be explaining to residents why they're taking a tree out, and they look at this beautiful, healthy tree, but meanwhile it's a high-risk tree. They monitor the work that's being done by others. And a lot of times, if the work that's being done by others is not up to city standards, they have to enforce the city standards. When they show up on the job site, they're the Lorax. They're speaking for the trees. And there's nobody else that's going to do that for them. So these are the domains for the municipal arborist. And like I said, if you have a large staff, some arborists are going to be assigned some duties, and some are going to do all of the duties. But if you're in a larger agency and you're only assigned part of those duties, then it would behoove you to move through the different departments and transfer around so you can learn as much about the urban forestry program as you can, because it's good training for when you do move into the urban forester position. Administration, a lot of times, is a new task for somebody that's moving to become a municipal arborist. And that's when your focus of your education shifts from the technical aspect of arboriculture to the art and science of managing people. I would also point out that the arboricultural practices test is a little different, or the section on that of the test is a little different. Has anybody recently taken the municipal arborist exam? Wow, okay. So it's a little different. And it's just because you became a certified arborist, don't think you can just fly through that section, okay? Policies and regulations, you have to know a little bit about a lot of different things, whether it's ADA compliance, labor unions, working relationships, disciplinary actions, that sort of thing. So it takes you in a different direction than just being a certified arborist. Now, urban forestry at first, when I first ran this program, this talk, I vetted it through a bunch of my colleagues, right? And by the time I got to this section, they had already said, you're already talking about urban forestry. And I go, well, wait, there's more, okay? So at first, everything that I talked about might sound like urban forestry, but at first glance, it looks the same. But as we start to dive into it, it's a little different. So here's a definition for urban forestry that came out of Science Direct, but it's only one definition. And when you start researching definitions of urban forestry, they've got American Forest, U.S. Forest Service, Wikipedia, Urban Dictionary, ISA. Everybody and their dog has a definition for urban forestry. The only thing that really is in common with all the definitions is that they all have their own take on what urban forestry is. Nothing was similar. This is a term that's been around since the late 19th century, but it was actually coined in 1965 by Eric Jorgensen, who was a professor at the University of Toronto, and he taught forest pathology, and he coined the term urban forestry and urban forests, and that was in 1965. Now, another thing that I read about urban forestry is that when you take the European languages and translate urban forestry, it translates more to ecosystems than it does to streets or park trees. Urban forests vary in size or structure. They usually include things like parks, street trees, landscaped boulevards, gardens, rivers, coastal promenades, industrial sites, transportation centers like airports, harbors, and rail lines, utility corridors. So when the urban forest is thoughtfully planned out, it connects all those green infrastructure areas and ties it all together and blends it in with the gray infrastructure and the built environment. No matter how you define urban forestry, though, it has the attention of professionals, scientists, and decision makers. And the urban forester of today has to have a skill set that's as varied as all the different areas of an urban forest that they have to manage. I gave a talk last month to a high school, right? And so the teacher puts up on the whiteboard for the class, today we're going to hear from an urban forester. So what is a forester? What is an urban forester? So everybody has to write down their answers, right? So this is one answer this is a quote, okay? Try to get through this with a straight face. I think a forester is a person who lives out in the woods and lives off the land because nobody likes him. He spends his days perched in a tree with a hunting rifle and one of those old canteens with whiskey in it and fires on anybody that comes near his beloved trees. He usually wears khaki or flannel or brown or earth green or sand-colored windbreakers and khaki pants or jeans. But as for an urban forester, I have no idea what that is. So I think an urban forester is somebody that can play multiple roles in an agency and has the ability to stand out among other staff members, not because of what they do or who they are, but because of the number of people that they come into contact with on their job on a regular basis. That actually is not an urban forester, that's my former city manager. But the urban foresters are the ones that are responsible for the population of trees, and oftentimes all are part of the vegetation in all those green belt areas that I mentioned. They're usually the advocate for the urban forest, and they will stress the importance of trees in the community. They will work with city staff members and various stakeholders to advance the urban forestry program, and they make sure that the right resources are being applied to the management and to urban forest management. Today, cities are all about trying to increase canopy covers, and this effort is a lot of times led by the urban forester, who sets the goals and sets the strategies for the cities to reach those goals. They're responsible in part for the management of the ecosystems of trees and all the other vegetation that's around a community. They're the professional that will communicate the environmental, social, and economic benefits to the community. They do that on a regular basis through their regular education program. Given the right opportunity, the urban forester is also the professional that can bring more green into the gray infrastructure or the built environment. A lot of times engineers don't know where to put trees. Put the engineer with an urban forester, and the urban forester is going to figure out where to put trees and work with the engineer to come up with a strategy to where we can get trees planted in there. It's not all flat lines and gray surfaces and smooth sidewalks. So whether communities want to admit it or recognize it, if you've got an urban area, a built community, if you will, and you have trees, then you have an urban forest. And you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a community forest, you can call it a neighbor woods, you can call it an urban forest, okay? But it takes the professional who understands how to manage that population of trees and the community that impacts that population and manage the interaction between the community and the trees. So what does it take to be an urban forester? You gotta have the technical ability. You have to know your species, characteristics, the kind of pests, diseases that are going to affect the forest. You got to know your species frequencies and balance that with proper pruning cycles. By the way, all you people that are taking pictures of the screens, I'm going to put this up on my website. The web address is at the end, and it'll be up there probably in another week or so, and you'll be able to take it if you want. So I'm sharing this with everybody. So they have to know what the threats are to the forest. What are the pests? What are the diseases? What are the natural disasters that's going to hit the forest? And what are the disasters? And when I say disasters, I mean it could be a political disaster. It could be a residential disaster. It could be a construction disaster. It could just be a flat-out disaster. How do you manage all that stuff? What are the needs of the forest? Where are the weak areas and where are improvements needed? Nowadays with iTree, the urban forester can use the iTree results to provide detailed reports on environmental benefits of the urban forest, which can show the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, as an urban forester, you learn that you got to be able to communicate with leadership on their level, and that can be a big advantage. You got to know and understand an agency's initiatives and what the decision makers want, what their political agenda is. So that kind of political intelligence can help you with your program and help you advance your program. Having background on various department functions, what the directors are up to, knowing who knows who knows what, and most importantly, who likes who. I'm not kidding when I say that, okay? It's a true thing. It's a real thing. The more the urban forester moves about their agency and knows about their agency, the easier time they have to advance their program, because they recognize these opportunities, because they're working with other departments, they see what their programs are, they see what their agendas are, they will find a place to fit their program into their agenda. Urban foresters often find that an agency's trees are a component of formal documents, whether it's the general plan or a parks master plan or something like that. So the two documents to see off on the right there are from the city of Pasadena. The top one is from the land use element, and it mentions trees as one of its guiding principles. The next one below that is the landscape concepts guidelines, and they talk about street trees front and center. So the keen or the aware urban forester is going to find those documents, find the specific sections of those documents that call out trees as a guiding principle of the foundation for the city, and they will use that information in their urban forest master plan. And you use those city documents to support your urban forest master plan. The iTree also helps the urban forester craft long-range master plans to help reach those canopy goals. And also to address, nowadays it's all about canopy inequity, and it helps to address canopy inequity. Now, politics are an unavoidable part of urban and community forestry. It doesn't matter what level you're at. Am I right? Yes. So anybody that's been around for a season or two will know that every urban forestry program needs political support, and it's up to the urban forester or the municipal arborist to learn how to, the art of tree politics without playing politics. And it's not easy. Political capital is a resource that the effective urban forester develops over time and knows when to spend it and how to influence the decision-making process using that political capital. It's built through your reputation, the image of your program, your organization, and what you've accomplished for the public. Political capital is accumulated or developed by building strategic and mutually beneficial relationships that are built on mutual respect. It's also built by being a problem solver, and quite frankly, by doing things for other people. Knowing the agendas of other departments and helping them with their program, you're paying it forward because you know eventually you're going to want to draw on them for something. Okay, so yes, you are paying it forward. Political capital is provided by providing factual information about the benefits, the costs, and the long-range needs of the urban forestry program. And these are the kind of messages that get pushed up through the hierarchy. Pretty soon you hear your boss start talking your language about why we need trees. And then you hear the city council or the city manager talking about it. And that message will get pushed up through the chain. But always remember that political capital does have an expiration date, and it can disappear almost immediately, especially if you play or you promote an unpopular agenda, or if you have somebody or a constituency group or something undermining you. And yes, that is a real thing as well. But that's a whole other session. So. Urban foresters are always working with the public and constituency groups, and most of them are well known to the agency, but sometimes you find the new ones, okay? And you find these unexpected stakeholders, and of course, it usually happens because by the nature of our jobs, we don't make everybody happy, right? And so the people that are unhappy sometimes will create a letter writing campaign, or they will start calling the city manager's office, or they'll go to the city council's office. So when that happens, you know, there's a groundswell that's happening. The urban foresters if the urban forester is in touch with the constituency groups, they will start to see this happen, and they will anticipate a change in policy or procedures, and they will work with those constituency groups to arrive at a resolution to where they have a revised policy that's going to make most of the people happy some of the time. The experienced urban forester also knows how to engage the right members of the community at the right time, like at budget time, when you need things supported and you need the community to come to the budget hearings and explain why they need whatever it is that they need for the urban forestry program. And that brings me to the next point, which is communication and collaboration. And because urban forestry impacts literally everybody in a city, and it impacts a lot of voters, that can be a touchy subject for some elected officials and some appointed officials. And the way this works is the urban forester's out managing the program, doing whatever they're doing, right? But meanwhile, somebody that you made unhappy because of a policy or a procedure, they're starting to pepper the elected official with their problems. They want this done. They're going to make campaign donations, and they want the urban forest to suit their needs. And a lot of times the urban forester's tasked with gaining an understanding of what the public needs for their urban forest and translating that into an effective program that also complies with ordinances, regulations, best management practices, and is it good for the benefit of the forest. By the nature of the profession, urban forestry builds relationships. It can be between individuals or groups. And these relationships typically share a mutual concern or cooperation, and they have a responsibility. Each group has a responsibility to reach those goals. The active urban forester will have multiple relationships that are long range or permanent, and will have some that have specific goals or specific objectives. How many times has an urban forester, or even a municipal arborist, or even a tree care contractor, or a licensed tree expert, how many times have we provided solutions that are outside our scope of being an arborist or an urban forester? A lot of times. A lot of times it's the other way around. Sometimes you're involved in a project because the project is having an impact on the urban forest. Other times it's the urban forest that's having a project or having an impact on the project. Since the urban forester is the expert, many times others will look to that position for leadership and direction. And a lot of times it's the urban forester that's going to take the role or the lead role in some sort of an environmental sustainability initiative. The urban forester reports to leadership and is somebody that has the political intelligence to report on the issues that are larger than the urban forest, and they are able to articulate how the two pieces fit together, the large complex project and the urban forest. How's it going to benefit and what's going to benefit from it? So to summarize, the complete urban forester has to have the technical ability. They need to know the details of their forest, the species frequency, the age of the forest, where the weak points are. The list goes on. They have to know their forest. As an urban forester, you learn very quickly how political intelligence can be a big advantage. Knowing the agendas and initiatives of decision makers, having background on the various department functions, goals, and objectives, knowing who knows what, and, come on, somebody. Who likes who? Yes, thank you. Like one person was paying attention. Urban forestry requires political capital, and you get that through an educational program by influencing community leaders, decision makers, and constituents. The urban forester has to be a critical thinker and a strategic planner. How are they going to position their program to advance their initiatives? How do you communicate on all different levels? The urban forester has to be able to communicate with the homeowner, the business owner, management, upper management, decision makers, a wide variety of constituents, a wide variety of coworkers, So they have to be able to work with all these different constituency groups or all these different employment groups and be a communicator and a collaborator. And you have to be able to provide solutions that are out of your scope of work. The urban forester is the expert, and sometimes they have to learn how to lead from their own position. At MFI, we spend a lot of time talking about lateral leadership, how to lead from where you are. You might not be the public works director, but when it comes to urban forestry, you're the expert. And so, yes, you are the leader on how this massive asset is going to be managed. So this doesn't say who does more, it's who does what, okay? So when you look at the municipal arborist role with operational staff and individual tree care, you know, they're dealing with the staff and individual trees while the urban forester is working at a supervisory level and they're dealing with the population of trees. The arborist works with the constituents on a one-on-one basis, whereas the urban forester is working with the constituency groups to try to get consensus and try to gain something for the program. The arborist does all the maintenance schedules, conducts all the inventories, monitors conditions out in the field. Meanwhile, the arborist or the urban forester is setting canopy goals, reporting on ecosystem deliveries, and has a communication network with other urban forests that are either adjacent to their community, or it might be a regional network, or it might be a statewide network, or it might even be a national or international network. But all this network, this information sharing can involve constituents that might cross over boundaries, political boundaries, into other cities. I used to share constituency groups with the city of Los Angeles when I was in Santa Monica all the time. And yes, they could be just as obnoxious as in LA as they were in Santa Monica, so it was good to know that. But nevertheless, the communication network also would apply during the EAB crisis, when everybody was learning what they were going to do about EAB. In California, we were learning how to deal with eucalyptus longhorn beetle, and we had a communication network among urban foresters, and we were sharing information and keeping everybody informed of what they're dealing with. Unfortunately, it's the municipal arborist that gets the calls in the middle of the night and says, got a limb down, got to go clean this up. During stormy weather, municipal arborist usually doesn't sleep. They're awake at night. They know the wind's blowing and it's raining, and they know they're going to get a call. But on the other hand, it's the urban forester that has to respond to the network or to the media. And a lot of times they've got a microphone in their face, and they're having to answer questions on the fly, whether they know the answer or not. They're pressed for an answer. This is why at MFI we spend an entire day on how to deal with the media and how to present in public. It's critical importance. The municipal arborist is the person that shows up on the job site to enforce ordinances and enforce regulations. The urban forester is the one that's actually crafting those ordinances or the policies or procedures, and works with planning and other departments on planning projects and how the projects are actually going to be built. The municipal arborist takes all that budget information, all his wants and needs, all that she wants to add to her budget, whatever they do, and the technical information, and they filter that all up to the urban forester, who takes that information to develop a budget and reports to leadership on what they need for the urban forest. So there is a somewhat blurry, kind of very clear difference between the two positions. There's probably a lot of crossover, but nevertheless, the two positions are different, and there are a different set of duties. Clear definitions of the two positions raises the level of professionalism in urban forestry. And I would allude to Paul's talk earlier this morning. We need to define ourselves in the profession better, just like SFI is defining defining certification programs for the cities and agencies. We have to define our profession and fit within that SFI initiative. Clear descriptions also, it helps with recruitment. So if you're applying for a job as a municipal arborist, and you read the job description and you go, this sounds like an urban forester position and it should be paid more, then, you know, that's not going to help you. You're not going to want to apply for a job. If you have the skill set of an urban forester, but the job is a municipal arborist position and a municipal arborist salary, you're going to fight an uphill battle. Clear job descriptions helps agencies set their salary levels. They'll compare salary levels among cities, but if they have a position that's an urban forester position and they're comparing it to a city that they always compare salaries with, that they don't have an urban forester position, they're going to pick somebody from either public works or parks that has a similar level within the city hierarchy, and they'll compare salary levels like that. But what they will most likely do is they will compare it to the park's salary, because everybody relates trees to parks. But unfortunately, park salaries are typically lower than public works salaries. So we're not getting a fair shake when it comes to comparing salaries. So clear job descriptions and clear recruitment levels are what we really need to do. And I will also point out that the city of Honolulu is looking for an urban forest administrator. The job is coming open. I'm not kidding, it's open. Please, somebody apply. If you're interested, see me after this talk. I'll get your information. The announcement's going to be coming out in another week or so. It's coming out very quickly, but I would encourage you to apply. Trust me, Honolulu needs outside help. Anybody from Honolulu in here? I'm going to get called under the carpet for that comment, I'm sure. But yes, I would encourage somebody to apply. Andrew. Michael. It's time. So it's time that we clearly make the connection between urban forestry and the immediate environmental benefits that the urban forest provides to the community. We have to drive that point home. We have to clearly define the levels of our profession and promote those two different positions, okay? So Paul just made an announcement this morning about Society of American Foresters. Yes, they are coming out with the urban forestry credential. I think it's called the Community Forest Certification. And they'll start accepting applications for the credential by the end of 2023. Now, somebody said earlier during Paul's talk that this is a money grab. It's just another chance to get another certification. Yes, it is another chance for certification. And yes, we do need credentials. I spent the first 10 years of my career working with an engineering firm, and I had no credentials. And they said, well, you have no credibility. You've got no credentials. Nobody knows who you are. You might know tons about trees, but nobody knows who you are. You've got no letters after your name. Well, you look at an engineer, they've got that, what is it, certified professional engineer, or PE. They got the PE after their name. That's like golden to them. Or if you're a certified planner, you know, you've got CPA after your name if you're in the planning department, or CPA if you're a certified public accountant. Why not be a certified urban forester if you're doing urban forestry? And why not get paid for being an urban forester and doing urban forestry work? You're working from the neck up. You should get paid more. Our world is changing. Urban areas are growing and becoming more and more populated. I just heard earlier this year, anybody listen to the Yale School of Forestry webinars? Anybody sign up for those? They're really good. They're like 40 minutes. It's right around lunchtime. It's a great, lunch break session. But anyway, what they said was, the urban areas, now it's 50% of the country's population lives in urban areas. By 2050, it's going to be 60%. Now, I look around the room, and I see a lot of you that are going to still be working in 2050, okay? You're going to want that certification. Urbanization is here to stay. It's moving forward. Urban forestry is going to become even more critical. People want their green spaces. We learned about that earlier yesterday when, after COVID, during COVID, everybody started loving parks to death because they wanted the green space. Well, another 10% of our country's population moves into the urban areas, our green spaces are going to be even more valuable. And it's going to take a professional to manage those green areas. Now, if I could still be working in 2050, I would be. But And I'd like to make one more shameless plug for the Municipal Forestry Institute. I don't know when it's going to be held in 2023. You can ask Michael Martini over yonder. He might be able to shed some light on it. Or you can go through the Society of Municipal Arborists and get more information about it. But I would strongly encourage you to attend MFI. Now I want to say one last thing. Whether you're a municipal arborist or an urban forester, you wear a lot of hats at one time. And many times you're going to feel like you're being attacked from all sides when something's going on. When there's an urban forestry issue or there's a controversial tree issue, you're going to get hammered from the public. Everybody's going to call you names, burn you in effigy. They're going to say you don't know what you're doing. I read on Google, my gardener says, you can hear from everybody, okay? But you know you're doing the right thing, okay? It can be very stressful at times. And I think that in our profession, I don't think we talk about that enough. On one-on-one conversations that I had with my colleagues, I know that this is a real thing, okay? So I would ask you to remember these things. Recognize the stress in yourself and what it's doing to you and those around you when things like this start to happen. Take care of yourself. You take care of yourself by staying connected to your friends, your family, and your colleagues, okay? And then always remember that our profession is like no other, okay? If you are in trouble or you need help or if you need technical assistance, put it out on the listserv, send out an email, call a colleague. You know you're going to get the help. How many times have you called somebody and asked for help and not gotten it in this industry? I've never not gotten help. Ask for help. And if you need to just unload and just vent and get rid of some of that stress, call a colleague and do it. Don't let it eat you up and don't let it take control of you. Ask for help. You're not alone. Thank you. I think we have time for a couple questions.
So we have
Yeah, if somebody has questions.
over here.
But
Oh, you know what? That's my email address. If you just email me, I will send you the link to the website.
Can you put that back up? Anyone, questions? When you put it back. Okay, so it's WWCA621 at AOL.com.
Yes.
WWCA621.
I have to figure out how to put the presentation on the website first. That'll take me a day or two, but it'll be up there, and then you can go and you can just collect it and look at it as much as you want.
Oh, I see a question. I'm coming.
OG. That's my first and only email address.
okay, thank you. Yeah, the idea about wearing many hats. Okay, I'm a full-time I'm a forester. I like to say it that way, but I'm also an urban forester. But I'm a county shade tree commissioner. All right, so I wear many hats. And I'm the one who goes out and does the risk assessment. I'm the one doing some of the jobs of the arborists. I come from a rural county of New Jersey. Oh, I'm sorry. And so the idea of wearing many hats is very true, and the definition of urban forester really kind of, the line is not a defined line. Okay, so like most of the people here are volunteers, and so the idea of working with the community is kind of a difficult task because you have so many different aspects of it. Budget is the biggest issue. With a lot of the communities, there's a limited amount of money. We have to meet all these other requirements.
Is there a question in here?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Okay. So, no, how's the best way to deal with all that?
How's the best way to deal with it?
Yes.
Well, start small. Bite off what you can chew first. But like I said earlier, urban forestry touches literally everybody in the city. I mean, you drive out of this hotel right now, the first thing you're going to see is street trees. So you have to remember that you impact almost everybody in the city. You have to be open to taking in information from people, synthesizing that information, and putting it back in an educational way to where the person that wants to remove every tree because they don't like raking leaves will then understand that leaves are, that's a part of life, but the benefits that we get from the trees outweigh the pain in the neck that it is to rake those leaves. So it's a constant educational program on the urban foresters program, on the urban foresters part. Everybody you're talking to, you're educating about urban forestry.
So like my associate Joe here, I also wear both hats, urban forester, municipal arborist, forester. And I want to ask you to riff off your second to last slide, where we're talking about self-care and stresses and what have you. Mm-hmm. What I've noticed over my career is that there's a transition in the urban forestry, municipal forestry realm where people who were trained as what you and I would call dirt foresters have made the lateral transition to urban forestry. And that brings certain personality types, usually. So I want to ask you, in your experience teaching MFI over all those years, can you riff a little bit about what you see as personality attributes that predispose professional urban foresters to be good at it versus types of people for whom it's just too much political stress?
So you're asking me to categorize and profile people and fit people into different pigeonholes, which I cannot do. I get what your question is. If you're doing urban forestry work and you call yourself a municipal arborist, I would start calling myself an urban forester. If you're doing urban forestry work, but yet you're doing municipal arborist work, I would call myself a municipal arborist and urban forester. I would say I'm both. There are any job you take on. It could be working at Baskin and Robbins, scooping ice cream. There's going to be stress involved. Some people can do it, some people cannot. You have to be able to recognize within yourself what your capabilities are. I grew up in a little tiny island, in a little tiny town in Hawaii. And all of a sudden, here I am, I'm in big time Santa Monica. I didn't know what I was doing there, but I was not afraid because I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to teach urban forestry and be able to educate the community on the benefits of trees. So if you have that drive in you, the willingness to educate people on why we need urban forests, then I think the political pressure and the infrastructure, the dealings with the city and all that, I think that becomes superfluous to the urban forestry job. It's just part of the job that you have to deal with. But if you stay focused on what your goal is, to educate people on why we need trees or to advance the urban forestry program, that other stuff isn't going to affect you. And I would also say that, having a clear job description so people know that, look, this is the urban forester, this is the municipal arborist. A lot of times the focus goes to the right person. If it's the municipal arborist that's doing something, the focus is going to go on the urban forester, on the arborist, and vice versa with the urban forester. Oh, this question was, what's the average temperature of Honolulu? It's usually about, it's in the, now it's probably 81, 82 degrees, 84 degrees. I will say that summers in Honolulu can be really nice. But the winters in Honolulu, I'm telling you, are really nice.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, and I wish I could move to Hawaii, but grandkids supersede that.
I hear you.
And with regards to the behavior, I happen to have also added a disc consultant certification to my bailiwick. And I'm I know that, how would I say, employers are starting to use it to hire people. And I'm wondering if MFI has looked at that and with regards to that, because there are just certain personality types that might fall into a better employee or that would fit the profile of either the certified arborist or the urban forester.
Well, at MFI, we do talk a lot about personality types and how to recruit an effective urban forestry team, and how to, not necessarily how to interview people, but how to build a team with the right people in your department and in your division. And I suppose it's just like hiring anybody else in any other position. It's a question of what talents, whether it's, tangible skills or soft skills that person might have. I would say in the field of urban forestry, you got to have a lot of soft skills. You've got to be politically minded. You have to have some strategic planning in your mind. Anytime you talk to somebody, you have to figure, how can I exploit this situation to advance my urban forest position? I'll use this as an example. I was on a flight from Honolulu to LA once, and I sat next to a guy, and I'm working on a presentation, and he starts talking about pipes, okay? And I thought, this would be a really great product for sewer line. Next thing I know, he's a $5,000 sponsor for the SMA conference. So you never know when you're going to cross paths with somebody just by educating them about urban forestry, and all of a sudden you win them over. Anything else? Thank you very much.